Welcome to the Healers Podcast, where we inspire and guide healers through business expansion. We give voice to incredibly abundant healers to share their stories. We dive into the quantum field to unlock the energies of conscious creation. We also develop digital tools to help you grow, which you can find on healers.com. I'm your host, Yuli, and I'm grateful you chose to join this space. Now let's go deep. Hello, my dear friends, and welcome to another great episode of the Healers Podcast. Today we have a special treat. Josh Greenbaum, founder of CFO Minded, who works with creative and conscious entrepreneurs to support their business growth. He spent the early part of his career working for a Big Four accounting firm. But in a moment of personal awakening, he decided to step on a path of supporting small businesses by bringing the financial sophistication of big businesses. Since then, as a certified management accountant, he's helped dozens of small businesses, celebrities, and consultants to achieve their goals through strategic planning, accounting, and financial management. During the pandemic, he wrote his first book, Numbers Scare Me and Other Excuses, a business owner's guide to lead like a CFO, offering technical advice on how even the most number-adverse leaders can lead with confidence and purpose. In fact, after I read this title, I knew I had to bring Josh here and share his wisdom with all of you. And my intention for this episode is to bring more financial confidence to our audience of holistic medicine practitioners and healers. We need numbers and financial models to ground our vision. We need strategic planning to help us manifest in this reality. And Josh, it's a big task for you today. Hope you're ready. And please share your intention with us.
Well, first, thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. My intention is similar to yours, for this audience of wellness providers to bring financial wellness. I think there's so much wrapped up within finance, and having a healthy relationship is a really big thing that I want to bring today.
I love this so much. I love this term, financial wellness. Can we unpack that right away for our listeners?
Definitely. To me, financial wellness is truly having a healthy relationship with money and with numbers. And again, from the title, to not be scared of it, because in being able to provide wellness, there's that very complementary side to the whole thing of generating enough money so you can continue to provide wellness. And if you don't have one, you can't have the other. To be able to continue to thrive, to sustain your practice, you have to also then have money to support that.
I couldn't agree more. As someone who's worked with a lot of small businesses or wellness businesses, what do you see kind of the biggest challenges, or what do people in the space often overlook or have maybe even blocks with?
I think from a very fundamental standpoint, there's blockage around pricing, understanding what is the value, the dollar amount that you are asking of people who are receiving your service or your product or whatever it is that you're putting out to the world. And I think secondarily is the desire to help. And I think things that feel in conflict sometimes are that desire to help people. And when those people can't perhaps afford what you're offering, and to find, again, a healthy business model around that so that you yourself as the provider aren't financially suffering for the sake of giving.
That this is such a big point for many of our listeners and many of people that come to this space with, this idea of service, and how does finance fit into that? So let's talk about grounding that vision, right? Because again, knowing that people come with this idea of service, like what are some of the ways that you think practitioners could help kind of ground their vision and create a better financial foundation for their businesses and for themselves personally?
Yeah. Well, no different than any other service provider, whatever your skill or services that you're giving to the world, you have to really get clear on what is that service and what is that time that you're giving, and not just that time or session. Maybe it's an hour spent with somebody. It's also the 45 minutes of prep before and the 15-minute follow-up after, and truly just thinking about how much time am I giving to this, and what are my financial goals around my own personal life and what I want to achieve, and what are my goals. And it could be the opportunity to travel. It could be purchasing a home, or it could be as simple as affording rent and having a simple life. You have to be very clear on what that is, so that not only are you bringing in financially what you need to sustain those dreams, but also to understand the ebb and flow of business. Of, you may have slow months, you may have busier months, you may have times when you do big workshops and bring in large amounts of money. You might have times around the holidays where you want to check out for a few weeks. And you truly have to think about all of that. You were talking about kind of financial modeling and projections and things like that, to just truly think about, like, what do you want your life to be? How do you want to craft that vision for yourself, and therefore ensure that you're succeeding financially in a way that affords that?
Mm-hmm. So you touched on one of my personally favorite subjects of cash flow. And maybe we need to unpack that as well for some of our listeners. But can you just tell a little bit about that, and maybe start with even the basics? What is the cash flow mean? We know the other flow, right? We all know the flow of energy, but this is kind of the monetary flow of energy that we're talking about.
Completely. We need flow state to match financial flow state. I think the simplest way to think about cash flow is truly thinking about timing and very chronological. So let's just say that you want to put together a retreat, and you're going to book this beautiful facility out in Joshua Tree in the desert and create this incredible experience for your people, for your tribe. And 10 people are going to come. So that's then requiring this cash outlay to reserve the spot, maybe to put down a deposit for catering, to ensure that all the services that you're going to bring in are going to happen. The thing about that is you haven't perhaps started selling tickets yet, or maybe people are only putting down 50%. And therefore that timing of cash and ensuring that you're prepared for it all. And that, again, you're not putting yourself in a potentially low cash flow moment that becomes detrimental to you as the service provider, and perhaps cause stress to your own life, when down the line is where the cash windfall. So there's these ebbs and flows that happen with business, timing wise, and you have to be aware of that from a cash standpoint.
And what is the easiest way to plan for that? If you're absolutely kind of financial newbie, you have this big, beautiful idea. I love the Joshua Tree. I can see the vision, but how do we get there? And let's say we are talking about an event that's going to be happening a year from now or 6 months from now. What's the easiest way to plan for that?
I think the easiest way to plan for that is really around the idea of scenario planning, and the idea of what happens if everything's great and what happens if things go south. And by that, I find that so many entrepreneurs, so many business owners, and so many people in particular in sort of the creative space are aiming for the stars. They see it all. They see everyone there, and it's going to be a great success. And the ideas that come around manifesting and bringing that positive energy is so important. That if you're creating this retreat for 10 people, what happens if 8 people sign up? What happens if 6 people sign up? Are you still okay? And what does that financially do to this entire endeavor? So going back to the beginning of scenario planning is thinking about what are the, again, financial ramifications of different scenarios that could play out. And when do you have to pull the plug and say, unfortunately, we didn't get enough signups, I need to refund your money? Or how do you then respond to that? So to be prepared for those scenarios, I think is the most important.
That's a solid financial advice. completely contradicting all of our spiritual beliefs that we need to set positive intention and, and surrender our vision to the higher forces and know that it's going to be executed to our perfect standards. But I think it's a solid advice that we all should. I think it's more about kind of planning for that, but also not being like emotionally attached necessarily to that potentially negative outcome, right?
And it's going back to that word of kind of financial wellness. There's just a true responsibility in that. And it's a real tug of war of left brain, right brain, of wanting to be creative and also needing to be a little analytical and ensuring that everything is taken care of in a very healthy way. Because if the end result of this beautiful weekend retreat that you've planned is that all your attendees walk away happy as can be, and you walk away $2,500 in the hole, wondering how you're going to survive for the next month or two, what was really the benefit there? And how is that going to allow you to continue to provide for others and bring this wonderful service to the world?
Wow, that's a very profound truth that I think a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs probably find themselves kind of debating, because I do think a lot of those things come in expense of personal stress and maybe overextending, and for the sake of the greater good that we all have those great intentions for. And I think back to your point that you established earlier in the conversation about personal financial wellness, just establishing that your own wellness is maybe it is a number one priority. Maybe it's not selfish, right?
Right. No, I don't think it's selfish at all. Or maybe it is the value of the selfishness. It is truly taking care of yourself. If there's, I think, one point of advice within this that would be the easiest takeaway is that I often see people going out on their own, perhaps doing their first venture in whatever capacity it is, and they have the desire to make, let's say, $60,000. So they go and they do the simple math of $60,000 divided by 12, and they try to make $5,000 a month. And again, going back, that doesn't really lend itself well to this ebb and flow of money, because you just set yourself on a baseline that nothing can go wrong. So if you desire 60,000 a year, shoot for 120. Price your services and everything that you're doing higher, because that way you are healthy financially and your business is healthy financially. And I think that becomes this sort of external viewpoint that you have to see of your business becoming its own entity, which is, pardon the pun, but it is. And you have to keep that healthy as well. And it remains healthy by being financially viable as a business.
Mm-hmm. And so you touched on something very interesting here, those fundamentals, right? And we all know our fundamental pieces of our health and well-being, right? But what are, from your perspective, the fundamental pieces of a financially healthy business?
So you have your standard, a little bit of money in the bank for savings, et cetera, et cetera. And it's easy to say little things like that. To me, what becomes the most important exercise to go through is to truly almost feel like a personal budget, and not a budget in a way of this is my goal for spending each month, but just truly look back at a couple or 3 months of your life and understand what your life costs. Because I think it's really easy to know what your rent is, know what your car payment is, know what car insurance is, and have a general idea what that number is, but just go a little deeper and dig a little bit, and nothing scientific and no crazy spreadsheets, but just kind of know that number and know what you need to survive and add a cushion to that. Think about saving. Think about, how can I continue to build and build and build with this, and do the same for your business of what does that business need? So to be able to put yourself in a space where you just truly know your numbers as a human being, as a business owner, and that way you're coming from a place of power to just really know what you need going forward.
And by the way, personally, I found there's some amazing, great tools that you can use to help you in that process that are really like eye-opening in terms of looking into your real expenses. Like you said, we all know the big ones, but I find that it's the little charges that you don't notice.
Yeah.
That's what ends up like adding up. So I use something called Mint, which kind of just aggregates. You give access to all of your bank accounts and credit cards and all your bills kind of, and then even categorizes it for you over time. And then you can literally just go in once a month and just check your spending for the past months, or it has a history. And it's really eye-opening because I didn't realize personally how much my family was spending until business was a little easier because I used other business tools like QuickBooks. But even on the personal level, I didn't realize how much our family was spending until I put everything through Mint. And this is where you see the little like $10, $20 charges like suddenly adding up to like thousands of dollars that you have to budget for.
100%. And to add to it, there's so much shame around numbers and spending and whatnot. And I think the most important thing with an exercise like that is to just take it as is. Whatever you're spending, if you're going out a lot, if you're, whatever you're doing, just know that that's what you're doing to enjoy your life. And don't think about cutting. This isn't an exercise in how do I save money? This is an exercise in what is my life? What do I do to enjoy my life? And then how do I continue to build to support that life and grow that life? And not think of it as a way of bare bones and minimal.
Thank you for making that note. I really appreciate that because it's so easy when you do those number exercises. It's so easy to get into that shame mode. I'm overspending, I'm wasting, and oh my God, I didn't even know that I forgot to cancel this charge. So now I wasted this money. So it's kind of like a dangerous exercise in a way, right? Because you have to face some things that you might be denying. But I love your idea of just taking it as it is. This is just data we're looking for. We're kind of like more on this observer mode that we all talk about, right? So this is the same kind of approach.
And, I think what's so special about your audience and the community around you is there's such an importance on having that life and creating that life because you're giving so much of yourself and so much energetically that do those things that make you happy. Make sure you get a massage every month. Make sure you go out for that dinner that you like or whatever it is. Add abundance. Do what it is that you need to do to take care of yourself. And also, to touch back on what we were saying earlier, ensure that you're building this whole thing in a way that, again, financially supports you. And don't build it in a way that you have to work 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. Just think about it and think about that life that you want all the way through.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love this advice. And I think we touched a lot about on the subject of kind of maintaining a healthy business, right? But I think a lot of people in this space are also ambitious entrepreneurs who would like to scale their businesses. They love where they are, but they also can see how they could be helping more people. And sometimes it's just maybe looking into different product types that they could be doing. Sometimes it's maybe expanding and franchising and even opening multiple locations for their practice. I mean, there's so many ways to expand products. And I know you work with a lot of entrepreneurs on, the scaling of their businesses. So can you kind of touch on that next?
Yeah. To me, the core of scaling really centers around core competencies. So again, this is another moment of reflection. We're all holding up the mirror to ourselves, but it's the conversation around what am I good at? What am I not good at? What attracts people to me as a business owner, to my studio, whatever this might be, and how do I start to replicate that? If it's me teaching a class, great. How do we take the operations aspect off of your plate? How do we take the financial aspects off of your plate? I think the reframe often becomes from let's say a solo practitioner of the scaling is taking on that CEO mindset and separate from a title and a corporate feeling title to me, that CEO mindset really becomes looking at these different elements of your business, marketing, finance, operations, kind of the how do we do things, and starting to get people to report up to you, starting to understand what are the things that need to do and happen on a regular basis to be successful without you. That way, when you go to location number 2, number 3, number 4, you don't want that to turn into you running around to all those locations to make sure things happen. It's that you're setting up that infrastructure in an appropriate way. And most importantly, that people are reporting back to you so that you have that information to continue running the business.
That's a great advice. And I love also like what you do, which we haven't touched very deeply yet because I like to do those interviews backwards. I always like to get some juicy advice first and then kind of uncover what is it that you actually do for businesses. And I find your service really fascinating and very much in line with the modern times when people are not necessarily looking, to hire like a full CFO, especially in expanding businesses. You kind of want to be more conscious with your budget. And what you're offering to people is basically the wisdom of a CFO or chief financial officer, right? That comes at a fractional capacity that you can be there for them as much as they need you. And another very interesting aspect of what you do, you can kind of do it all between all the different jobs that this whole field of finance includes. And I would love for you to just expand on that because I think it's fascinating because a lot of people are not aware that they are able to work with people of your caliber in that capacity.
Thank you. To me, the biggest starting point in this topic is understanding truly the difference between accounting and finance. Accounting takes today and looks backwards. It's the data entry of everything that happened. And then finance is today looking forward and the strategy and the vision and the goals. And financially, how do we pull that all together? So to really differentiate, where I always hear people talk about, I'm small, I can't afford a CFO. The great thing about being a fractional CFO in the service of fractional CFO is that we can do little projects. We can spend an hour and a half together at the onset of your business or a year into your business, whatever the timing is, and really just start to dissect things and understand what is that vision, what are your goals as the owner for yourself personally, for your vision, your goals for the business, and to ensure that we're tying that back to the accounting and today. And again, from that standpoint of information, ensuring that you're getting good information. A lot of bookkeepers are doing data entry and working to put numbers in to get you to a tax return, which is also very important. And sometimes there's a gap between that objective and the objective of functional financial data, which truly tells the story of what's going on financially with your business. And there's a whole lot of nuance in that. I talk a lot about that in my book. And most importantly, though, is understanding what I like to say are like the unit economics of business, to really just get into like, what are the transactions? And when you sell X, how much do you make for yourself? So that when you try to sell 3, 4, 5, that you just know from the onset that this is a healthy business model, because you don't want to put yourself in a position where you thought you were selling an hour-long service to somebody, but in reality, you spent 3 hours between prep and follow-up. And maybe you just price yourself incorrectly in a way that makes it not profitable. So kind of zooming back out to the fractional CFO role, it's taking all this, it's digesting it with you so that there's a clear understanding that we all ensure that you're in a healthy place moving forward.
That's a very important process to do, is that analysis, right? That I think a lot of times kind of as a business owner, you might be just chasing the today, this week, this month, let's just get over it. But with someone kind of coming in and looking at your business from a longer term perspective, maybe analyzing the entire year and the seasonality even, Oh, did you know that every August your your services revenue, drops, but I don't know, the product revenue actually rises, like things like that that you can just kind of be more informed about and plan for better. I think there's a huge value in that, and I think it's really hard to sometimes analyze it from the inside. And that external eye coming in and looking at your business holistically is just priceless to me.
Definitely. And I think you just touched on this. It's a real opportunity to just kind of step back from your business because it's so easy to be in that detail and get lost in that day to day. And to take that moment, the proverbial work on your business, not in your business, to just think about these things. And sometimes I find it helpful physically to remove, and let's go sit at a coffee shop. Let's have a glass of wine. Let's change up the environment because I want to get you out of that day to day a little bit and just start thinking bigger. And not bigger in that you can't have a nice small business, but bigger in the larger vision of what you want.
I think it's a great point. I think a lot of times that dream vision, dream business becomes a burden, right? A financial burden or a burden that you feel like you can't control. There's always like unpredictability. So I think another piece to me of a solid foundation financially is knowing what happens, when there is a low season or a pandemic hits. I mean, that might be too much to be able to predict and plan for, but things happen. Our world is just becoming so unpredictable. So building that resilience, right? Do you have any tools for that? Or is it?
I do. So this might be the most counterintuitive thing that I say today is that in this exercise of dreaming and planning, to me, actually what becomes the most important is forgetting about how much money you have in the bank and ignoring what things cost, not forgetting, but just ignore it all. The reason for that is it's important to craft this vision of, let's say I want to expand from 1 location to 3 locations. Got it. How much will rent be? What's the capacity? How many classes per day and how many days per week? Just start putting that puzzle together. What will marketing cost? Do I need to run ads? Do I need to create social media content? Do I need to hire an agency? What are the components? And just build that and back into then later, what will that all generate in revenue? What will that require from a cash standpoint? Because in crafting that vision outside of the literal dollars in your bank today, again, it allows you to dream big. And then going to this CFO perspective, it allows you to decide, okay, what do you want to do from that? Do you perhaps want to bring in an investor? Do you want to take out a loan? Where are alternatives that you can finance this? Do you want to do something a la Kickstarter where you're pre-selling something and that pre-sale will fund this? So to me, that exercise is having that larger vision and you work backwards from there. And if the money isn't there, if the resources aren't there, that's okay too. Then we tweak. But to start with exactly what you want it to be, exactly what you see it being, is the greatest benefit you can do for yourself.
I love this exercise so much. I've done this for my business, and I feel like if I haven't, I wouldn't be having this big vision that I end up having. And I think a financial piece, it's a big part of it because it really gives it legs, right? You realize, okay, this is not just a vision. I can actually put numbers on it and it works.
The other thing that I'm going to add to it is I feel like everybody out there must know a lawyer, must know an accountant, fill in the blank of profession, and just go ask questions. If you can't afford it, just ask questions. I would imagine any good person with a good heart will give you 15, 20, 30, 60 minutes of their time and just answer questions to help set you on the right path. So where there can be a lot of privacy and holding ideas close, holding a vision close, to tap into those resources and those people and the professionals within your sphere, or the bold decision to just ask on LinkedIn or whatever it may be, And you may find that you have a lot more support around you than you even realize that you have to help find the solution for some of the vision.
No, I love this so much. Absolutely. I mean, I think learning in this space, and I think the first step is kind of embracing the space, right? And I know it from firsthand, coming someone who comes not from a financial background, I had all those blocks that you wrote in your books about, and it's about kind of step one, embrace the field, and step two, become curious about it, right? And actually learn, and learning from experts, self-education. I mean, there's so many online tools out there today. There's actually software that makes your life easier, like, Mint that I mentioned earlier. I think our lives are just like so much easier because we have this access to information, but it's just that openness to actually receive it and then asking for it, where I find
Right, because success is not being great at everything. Success is utilizing the resources around you. By no means am I saying you need to become a financial expert. You're an expert in whatever element of wellness that you're providing to others, or healing, or Reiki, or whatever your service is to the world. So I'm not saying become a financial expert, but educate yourself up a little bit. Find a tool online, whatever it may be. Ask a friend for input. You're just adding to your own toolbox.
So what does an average practitioner, do you think, needs to have in their toolbox? So, or what kind of resources? What's the perfect setup or the recommended setup? So bookkeeping, accountant, CFO, tools, software. What is the absolute basic that you think makes a healthy business setup?
So I'll give you an indirect answer, then I'll give you a more direct answer. My indirect answer is whatever it is that can provide reporting to you and provide information to you. So perhaps if you're using a software like MindBody for people to book sessions, and from that you can dive in and get sales reports and things like that, that's great, because that's putting information in front of you. You can run a report month by month by month. Similarly, maybe you're just on the go and you use Square and you use a card reader from your phone. Great. Let's run some reports out of Square. The general thought being, all that's important is getting a report and data and information in front of you. As you can build that team of a bookkeeper, perhaps engaging a CFO, those things will dial in and perfect those numbers. Those will bring people with a financial lens, things of that nature. A bookkeeper may not have the experience or the confidence to do strategy type work with you and really look into the future. So therefore, perhaps engaging with a CFO for an hour and a half might be beneficial to do once, and you're good. Maybe you want to check in once a quarter, twice a year, whatever it is. So it's really building those pieces in a way, again, that put good information in front of you, so you have that grasp of the business.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. I would say maybe a wrap-up question would be, what do you think? Maybe it's a little bit of do's and don'ts that you see from your perspective, something that holistic practitioners should be doing, they're not doing, or the opposite.
Yeah. So the thing that I will offer from my perspective of the many people who I get to work with are the ones who are most successful don't turn a blind eye. They are actively engaged. They know how to log into their bank and check a charge, if a charge came through or didn't come through. They have a relationship with a banker, whatever it may be. The ones who are struggling, and perhaps it's shame around money, maybe the business is in a downturn and there's embarrassment. But once they kind of disengage and walk away and they're like, Josh, you just handle this, I feel like that is just a recipe for things spiraling down. So above everything, this business is your baby, and it's yours to own and grow and teach and evolve and all those things. So just always actively stay engaged. Don't become a passive business owner.
Yes, being present. in the financial side of things. And I love that so much. Well, Josh, it's been such a pleasure. So many useful tips and advice. And I think hopefully we opened some minds today in this, seemingly boring topic, but to me, exciting and fascinating topic of money and energy that comes with it. And if you have any last words for our audience, please feel free.
I think my last words are to build a business that you love and that's financially successful is what will allow you to keep on going and keep providing to the world. So if you have hangups around money, if you're uncomfortable around money, know that it is your vehicle to keep going and let it be that role in your life.
Love it so much. Thank you again. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.